When it comes to understanding migration, it is defined as the movement of people from one place to another. It can be voluntary or forced, and it can be temporary or permanent. According to the International Organization for Migration, migration has three dimensions: spatial, temporal, and volitional. The spatial dimension refers to the distance that migrants travel. It can be internal within the same country or external. And the temporal dimension refers to the duration of the migration. It can be short or long term. And the volitional dimension refers to the reasons why people migrate. It can be voluntary or forced. There are actually many factors involved in migration. Push factors are the ones that make someone want to leave their current location, while pull factors are conditions that make someone want to move to a new location. This can include better job opportunities, higher wages, better living conditions, or the presence of family or friends in the new location. Other factors that can influence migration, as we all know, include social, cultural factors, also discrimination, persecution based on race or ethnicity, religion, or even sexual orientation. Economic factors are also part of the migration's challenges and factors. And finally, according to the International Rescue Committee, a refugee is someone who has been forced to flee their home due to war, violence, or persecution. An asylum seeker, on the other hand, is someone who is also seeking international protection from dangers in their country, but whose claim for refugee status hasn't been determined legally. And at the end, a migrant is someone who moves from one place to another, usually for economical reasons or other reasons as well. And the difference is that unlike refugees and asylum seekers, migrants are not fleeing persecution or danger in their home countries.
Today I'm going to talk about the migration challenges that migrants go through. So for this information, we're going to talk about first how many migrants are there, and this is a fact taken from the UN. And they said that 281 million approximately in the year 2020 were migrating or were already in a country where they weren't born in. So now that we know this information, we can say that there is a lot of people that go through these challenges, and some of this can be lack of financial resources, access to food, the lack of security, the little space and sanitation when they arrive to the shelters, and also the number of lives lost, that it's approximately 4,000 deaths. The problem I want to focus about is the sexual assault that a lot of women, children, and men go through during this travel that they do. And I think that is horrible, and I don't think they can really do nothing about it, because since they are migrants, a lot of governments don't recognize their human rights. So it's just something like they mentally prepare for when they're gonna travel. And also I think that the impact this has on their mental and physical health is something that it's not talked about enough. Because as I quote in the book of Sonia Herrera, Atrapadas en el Limbo, she says, rape in a migrant woman in front of her husband, brothers, children, or companions degrades the woman and those who accompany her. Like, imagine the pain they must go through just to arrive to another country. And sometimes it's even traumatic enough for them to not make it. And also another problem that I think it's not talked about enough is when they arrive to the shelters, like everyone, they don't have opportunities, they don't have nothing. They go to another country searching for opportunities, and they can't because they don't know either the language, the culture. They are not socially adaptable that easily because they've never lived there. So yeah, that's a big problem too. So analyzing this, we can conclude that these people suffer a lot, and these are just some of the challenges that they go through. There's a lot more. And also leaving behind their possessions, their culture, their families, everything just to go to another country.
So well, let's talk about the definition of about migrant identity and migrant stereotypes because they're quite different. Because the migrant identity is when someone defines and have the sense of this belonging experience in this by individuals or communities who have been relocated from one place to another by across cultural countries and or boundaries, having plenty factors that have made that situation and haven't been like a decision like from pleasure, have been like a necessary decision. That could be that is the definition of a migrant identity. They can have like the legal status, the language and communication can be different, and the cultural background also has a high influence in that. But let's talk about the difference about the migrant stereotypes because that's the migrant identity, but the migrant stereotypes are the ones that are belief or are like assumptions that people have in those people because of their cultural background, their characteristics such as nationality, ethnicity, etc. that became to make these assumptions because sometimes they could be false and it could become like some kind of racism. For example, the socialization, the cognitive the shortcuts when people use stereotypes to define to other people that maybe because of their characteristics they are not accustomed to see in their daily lives. But there are the most differences between the migrant identity, migrant stereotypes. Like, we have to be really clear about the differences because the identity is when a migrant people feels like that. The migrant stereotype is when someone doesn't know anything about that person and we just assume that that people is a migrant and uh, we start to make assumptions, we start to think about the people, we make that stereotypes, we make false assumptions, and it also became like an attack to those people.
The right to migrate is commonly associated with the belief that individuals should have the freedom to cross borders and reside in a country of their choosing. This right is firmly established in various international human rights agreements, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The declaration acknowledges the right to seek asylum and the freedom to move. Supporters of the right to migrate argue that people should be allowed to leave their home countries for any reason, such as pursuing better economic prospects, escaping persecution, or reuniting with the family. This right holds a particular significance in cases involving refugees and asylum seekers. International law, as outlined in the 1951 Refugee Convention and in its 1967 protocol, upholds the principle of non-refoulement. This principle prohibits the forced return of refugees to a country where they will face persecution. The right to remain in one's place of origin without being asked to leave because of unfavorable circumstances is known as the right to not migrate. It includes the right to live without fear of harm, persecution, or financial hardship in a safe and secure environment. It essentially makes the case that someone shouldn't be forced to leave their home because of events beyond their control. This viewpoint is frequently associated with the idea of state stability and the duty of states to safeguard the welfare of the citizens. Governments occasionally call for the right to refrain from migrating in order to defend tight migration laws or border controls in an effort to preserve political and social stability inside their own boundaries. The conflict that I think is happening between the freedom to immigrate and the freedom to not immigrate can lead to serious political and ethical problems. In my opinion, not all nations are equally secure, rich, or lawfully just, and this imbalance can cause people to feel that they must leave their native countries in order to live better lives. Destination nations for immigrants may counter with the argument that unrestrained migration can put stress on their infrastructure, destroy their social structures, and possibly compromise their security as a whole. But in my opinion, I think that it's better for people to have the option to leave their countries to live better lives if they feel insecure in their own countries.
Hi, my name is Paloma and I'm going to talk about the responsibility in addressing migration. Nowadays, migration is a complex phenomenon that involves shared responsibilities between countries of origin, transit, and destination. These responsibilities include legal obligation, ethical, and humanitarian considerations. And I'm going to talk about some of the responsibilities of both the countries of origin and the destination countries addressing the migration phenomenon. Responsibilities of countries of origins based on the OIM in 2016 are a few. One of them is ensuring the well-being of their citizens in host locations by providing information, services, and assistance, as well as reducing migrants' vulnerability during emergencies by operating on the front line in crisis situations. Also, setting up mechanisms and capacities to specifically address the needs of migrants and facilitating reemployment, health insurance, income generation, and safe remigration options, and supporting migrants in claiming outstanding wages, assets, and property left in host states. Now, some of the responsibilities of countries of destinations based on the United Nations article in 2010 is one of them safeguarding the rights of all immigrants and protecting those who are vulnerable, providing better protection to migrants and conforming to international standards, also reinforcing activities to ensure safe and orderly migration, enhancing political coordination and boosting international cooperation to ensure safe and orderly migration, encouraging and promoting legal migration, and finally providing accurate and timely information at all stages of migration. This is a really important note that comprehensive migration governance is necessary to address the migration phenomenon. This includes labor migration, social integration, trafficking in persons, and migrant smuggling, and comprehensive management of migratory flows. In my opinion, the responsibility of countries in addressing migration is a really important thing to talk about, because the countries of origin have some responsibilities and have some obligations so that they can assure the correct migration of their citizens, and also the countries of destination, they need to reassure the rights of these migrants, which is a really important thing to do too. Thank you.
How can a global citizen make a meaningful impact in addressing the challenges faced by migrants, especially refugees and asylum seekers? To create change, we first need to understand the issue migrants, especially refugees, face. They are displacement, discrimination, and uncertain futures. Positive contributions go beyond surface-level help. Global citizens engage in grassroots initiatives, offering mentorship, language classes, and job training. Even donating from their own resources like clothing, medical kits, food essentials, and hygiene products. Remember that global citizens use their voices and platforms to raise awareness. They share stories and advocate for change through social media, blogs, and local events. Because real change often begins on grassroots levels, starting local initiatives like community support networks can have an impact in providing essential support and community for migrants and refugees. Then the impact can go further. Global citizens engage with policymakers, advocate for more compassionate and inclusive policies. A global citizen joins organizations, lobby for refugee rights, and push for change on a global scale. In conclusion, global citizenship is a call to action. The power of global citizenship lies in our collective efforts. By understanding the challenges faced, global citizens can make meaningful contributions to address the issues migrants and refugees face on a daily basis.